Owning a repository in Visual Studio Code using GitHub. First, start in your default web browser. Make sure you are logged in to GitHub. You can tell you are logged into GitHub because your icon will appear in the upper right-hand corner. Then open Visual Studio Code. With no other folders open, and this is indicated by the blue or the purple at the bottom, or going to File, Close Folder if any folders are open, go to the source control, the third option down on the left sidebar. Then go to Clone Repository. This will provide the option to clone from GitHub. Click on this. It will then ask the extension GitHub wants to sign in using GitHub. Allow. This will then prompt in the web browser using account currently signed into GitHub to continue to authorize Visual Studio Code to access GitHub. On this screen, you can authorize GitHub, finally, to access user profile data, full control of private repositories, and access user email for read-only purposes. Click on Authorize GitHub to continue. With the new prompt, depending on the web browser, open Visual Studio Code. Then finally, allow extension to open this URI. Click Open. This will then populate the list of repositories associated with this account from GitHub. In this case, I'm going to use the first one, dig 4503-spring 2021. This will then prompt to create a clone of this repository that is a local copy of its code. I'm going to go ahead and select the repository location of the default it gave me for my user account, Dan Cox. This will then prompt, would you like to open the cloned repository? Click Open. This will then open the clone repository, the folder on the local computer, and associate it with the GitHub account connected to the account authorized with Visual Studio Code. In other words, Visual Studio Code will then have the ability to upload or download commits, collections of changes, from and to GitHub using its own Visual Studio Code and the account authorized with it. This can be verified by the bottom, looking at main, the refresh, synchronize icon, and if there are any problems. The addition of these two icons at the bottom, left-hand bottom, the main branch and synchronize, show any changes to these codes. This can then be verified by creating some changes to the existing folder. For example, creating a new file called index.js will open the new file over here on the right-hand side and indicate with a 1 over on the left-hand side under source control that a single change has been made. This change is the creation of a new file. Clicking on source control over on the left-hand side will bring up the source control options. In GitHub, it uses Git. Git communicates using commits. A commit is a collection of changes. To create a commit, it needs a message. You have to describe what changes you made as part of that commit for GitHub to understand why you made them. Here it says prompts for a message. This will give a message to this commit. I have right here given a message example of using GitHub for the name of the collections of changes I have created. I can confirm this using the check mark right here to commit. It asks, there are no staged changes to commit. Would you like to stage all of your changes and commit them directly? Yes. It says, oh, make sure you configure your user.name and user.email in Git. If you click Open Git Log, it will, at the very top, prompt you to configure your global username and global user email. over here in terminal, run the two commands it just provided in output, providing your email and your name. To speed up this demonstration purpose, I have copied and pasted from output this command ask for the email and this command asking for the name in terminal and provided my own information. Finally then, these are set up. Doing this again, we want to commit, which will create the commit with the stage changes. It will also change the information down on the bottom left-hand side. Notice this now changes. Instead of just being synchronized, it says 0 down, 1 up. This means that there are 0 changes on the server compared to the local code, but there is 1 change on the local code that could be sent to the server. There are 0 down, but there's a change locally that could be uploaded pointing up. There are 2 ways to send a commit to GitHub. The verb used is push. You can either synchronize clicking down here or go to the 3 dots and push. The easiest though is to just synchronize. Clicking down here, it says this action will push and pull commits to and from the origin main. Click OK. It would then ask you to sign in GitHub using your browser. We want to reconfirm the new credentials we gave. And over in Visual Studio Code, it says, would you like code to periodically run git fetch? Git fetch asks or checks to see if there are new versions of the code on the server. We can go ahead and click yes. When that's all done, notice that the synchronize has changed again. There are no more changes to push or no more changes to pull, which means we are now fully up to date. The local code, the local copy created during the clone operation, matches the code on the server. This can be verified by opening up GitHub, coming over to the account, and refreshing. This will show the change right here, created a new file, the commit it was a part of, this was the message given, example of using GitHub, and the exact time changed 2 minutes ago, which is true. The exact time change was 2 minutes ago. So over in Visual Studio Code, once all of this has been set up, over on Explorer, the top left, I could then delete this file. So I can select the file, right click, and go down to delete, and confirm move to recycle bin, which is an option within Windows, and confirm. Notice this is now a change. A file has been updated in some way. Notice it says D for delete and scratches out index.js. Anytime I create a commit, I need to give it a message, a summary of those changes. I have deleted the example file. I click on the check mark to confirm this commit. I say yes to stage changes as part of the commit. And then again, notice down here, this is changed. This time, however, I'm going to go to the 3 dots and push. And once it synchronizes, notice the icon changes again. And the code on the server is the same as the code locally. I can confirm this by going to GitHub, doing a refresh. And I deleted the file, so it also removed the file on GitHub. This has been a review of how to use Visual Studio Code with GitHub. First, we went to clone a repository. This linked the accounts by creating the prompt within the browser. We then continued and authorized the account for that access. We then created a local copy, a clone of the repository in a folder on the local computer. We then opened up that folder in Visual Studio Code, which provided these new icons at the bottom indicating that it was connected and showed that we could synchronize changes. We then, when prompted after trying to create a commit, made sure we had Git configured with the username and user email we wanted to use. We did that using output and provided to terminal. Once that was finished, we then in source control created that commit. We agreed to put the staged changes as part of the commit, and then we needed to synchronize those changes. We could, down here, click on the synchronize button, or 3 dots and push, as I did the second time. And this pushed those changes to the server. Once they were synchronized, down here, we noticed there were no changes to pull down and no changes to push. We were then prompted to ask if Visual Studio Code should run git fetch periodically to check for new changes. We told it to do that. Once we verified that, I created a new change by deleting a file, created a new commit for that change, then synchronized those changes, which when we returned to GitHub, we saw deleted that file. Finally, synchronizing the changes I had made locally with the changes on this computer. This has been a review of how to connect Visual Studio Code with GitHub for the purposes of cloning a repository, creating local changes in that clone repository, and then uploading those changes, synchronizing those changes between Visual Studio Code and GitHub.